I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here we are. My name's Jake, and I was pretty much the happiest I'd ever been, at least on the surface. I had a decent job, a great apartment, and I was about to get married to Rachel. We'd been together for about 3 years, and I genuinely thought I knew her inside out. She was smart, beautiful, confident, and seemed to have her life together. Or so I thought. The signs started showing up a few weeks before the wedding. Small things at first. She was secretive about her phone, would get weird when I asked who she was texting, and her schedule suddenly got busier. I didn't think much of it at first, convinced she was just stressed with last-minute wedding planning. But then I noticed she was acting differently around her boss, Mark. She'd be tense around him, avoid him in public, and sometimes she'd be overly dismissive when I asked about work. I figured it was just work stress or maybe her being tired, but deep down, I started feeling uneasy. One night I was at her apartment, helping her pack some last-minute stuff for the wedding. She was on her phone a lot and I caught her deleting messages. That's when I saw it, an innocent-looking message from Mark, but the tone was intimate, like they had their own little secret language. I hesitated, then I looked closer. There were more texts about how they missed each other, plans to meet up after work, and even one where she said she couldn't wait to finally get her hands on him. My stomach dropped. My heart started pounding so hard I thought I'd lose it. I didn't want to believe it. I kept telling myself maybe I was just overthinking or reading into things. But the evidence was right there, laid out like a slap in the face. I felt betrayed, stupid for not noticing sooner. She had been lying to my face for weeks. As I sat there, staring at her phone, I knew I had to confront her. I had no choice. I had to see if she'd be honest or keep playing her game. The next morning, I woke up to her leaving for work early. I stayed up all night holding her phone trying to find more clues, and I did. An email from Mark confirming a date they had for that very night, right before our wedding. That was the moment I knew for sure. She was cheating on me with her boss, someone she'd been pretending to get along with, someone I had trusted. The worst part, she was so good at lying, telling me she was just friends and that I was paranoid. Yeah, right. When she got home that evening, everything changed. I waited for her in the living room, the phone tucked away in my pocket. As soon as she walked in, she looked surprised, almost guilty. I told her I knew about the affair. Her face froze for a moment, then she gave this sarcastic, bitchy smile and started spinning her lies, saying I was overreacting, that it was just sex, that Mark meant nothing, and I was just jealous because I couldn't handle her success. She told me I was insecure, that I was seeing things that weren't there. But I wasn't stupid. I knew what I saw, and I knew it wasn't just sex. It was a full-blown betrayal. That moment when I realized I'd been played was like being punched in the gut. I'd trusted her completely, and now I was left in this mess, drowning in lies and betrayal I never saw coming. I wanted to believe it was all a mistake, that she'd come clean and fix things. But deep down, I knew the trust was shattered and everything I thought we had was just a lie. How do you even begin to trust again after that? After she finished her little speech, lying so easily, packing her words with venom and excuses, I felt my world crumbling. It was like someone had just ripped my heart out, stomped on it, and then handed me the pieces to pick up myself. I couldn't believe I had been so blind. Rachel, my future wife, the girl I'd planned a life with, was out there cheating with her boss. And not just cheating, she was cold about it, almost proud of what she was doing, like it was some kind of victory. My first instinct was pure rage. I wanted to scream, to shake her, to throw something. Instead, I just sat there staring at her, trying to process the chaos inside my head. She kept denying, of course, saying, "You don't understand, Jake. It's just sex. It's not a big deal. Mark and I are just—" She paused, looking annoyed when I didn't jump in with the usual reassurance. She called me insecure, said I was overreacting, that it was just a mistake, she'd stop the second she saw how upset I was. But I knew better. I knew she was lying again, just trying to save her skin. I told her I needed space. I needed to think, to breathe. I told her I wasn't going to make any rash decisions, but inside I already knew what I was going to do. I needed to see if she'd admit it, really admit it, or if she'd keep spinning her web of lies. I had to know if there was any part of her that still cared about us. I couldn't just brush this off and pretend it was nothing. Not after what I found out. That night I stayed up again, going through her phone, her emails, everything. I wanted to catch her in a lie. And I did. A message from Mark popped up, something about how they'd meet that night after work, how they'd finally get some alone time. It was right there, plain as day, and it was the confirmation I needed. I stared at it in disbelief. She was planning to cheat on me just before our wedding. Just hours away from tying the knot, she was already planning her next escapade. I kept asking myself, how could she do this? How could she be so fucking selfish? I was practically falling apart inside, but I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just walk away without making her face what she'd done. I called her the next day, trying to keep my voice steady, but I was already losing control. I told her I knew everything. Her reaction: she got defensive, started calling me paranoid, said I was turning everything into a huge deal, that I was trying to ruin her, ruin us. She told me Mark was just a coworker, that I was just jealous because I couldn't handle her success or her ambition. She even had the nerve to say that I was insecure and that maybe I should get help for my trust issues. She lied so smoothly, so convincingly, it was like watching a master manipulator at work. I wanted to believe her, to hold on to some shred of hope. But the truth was right there in my face. She was cheating and she was lying about it. I felt my stomach churn, my mind racing. I knew I was at a crossroads. Do I forgive her? Do I confront her more? Do I just walk away? Every instinct told me to get out, to cut her off and never look back. But I also wanted answers. I wanted to understand how someone I trusted could do something so brutal. I was drowning in a mix of anger, betrayal, sadness, and confusion. It was like I was lost in a storm with no way out. And honestly, I didn't know if I'd ever be able to trust again, not after this. The days that followed felt like hell. I kept replaying everything, the texts, her reaction, the way she lied with such ease. Every time I thought I was over the shock, something new or a memory would hit me like a punch to the gut. It was like I was living in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I started questioning everything. Was I ever enough? Did she ever really love me? Or was I just another fool she was using for a backup plan until she got bored? I knew I had to confront her again, face her one more time before making any decisions. I still couldn't believe how bitchy she got, throwing more lies at me, calling me jealous, insecure, paranoid, anything to deflect from the truth. She kept insisting that Mark was just a sex thing, that she didn't mean anything. Yeah, right, I'd seen her texts. I'd read her emails. There was no way she just wanted a quick fuck before the wedding. And she knew it too. That's what made her so damn arrogant about it. So I called her up, told her I wanted to meet. When she arrived, she was still pretending to be innocent, like she hadn't just been caught screwing her boss behind my back. She had her usual smirk, like she was the one in control, like I was the one losing my mind. I looked her straight in the eyes and told her I knew she'd been lying the entire time, that I knew she'd been having an affair with Mark for weeks, maybe longer. Her response: she told me I was overreacting, that she was only exploring her options because I'd become boring. She said she deserved better than a guy who was insecure and suspicious all the time. She even had the nerve to call me clingy and say I was suffocating her. I felt like I was losing my mind. How could she say that after everything? How could she make it sound like I was the problem when she was the one sneaking around, lying and cheating? I told her I was done, that I couldn't stay with someone who lied so easily, who betrayed me, who treated me like I was nothing. I told her I wanted her out of my life, that I didn't want to see her face again, that I was ending it not just because of the affair, but because I couldn't trust her anymore. Her reaction: she just shrugged, said I was making a big deal out of nothing, and that I was just jealous because she was more successful than me. That was the moment I realized she didn't even care. Not really. She was so used to manipulating, lying, and getting her way that she didn't even bother to look remorseful or guilty. She just played the victim, like I was the bad guy for catching her. I felt a mixture of relief and emptiness. Relief that I finally saw her for what she was, an entitled, selfish bitch, but also a deep sadness that I'd lost someone I thought I knew. I threw her out that night, not because I wanted to be cruel, but because I knew I couldn't keep living in a lie. I couldn't keep pretending she was innocent or that she'd change. Watching her walk out that door felt like a death, but also like a breath of fresh air. Still, all I could think about was how I got here, how I was so blind, so naive. Now I'm just trying to rebuild, trying to find out who I am without her. It's hard. Trust is shattered, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to trust another woman the way I trusted her. But I do know one thing: I refuse to be a fool again. I won't let her betrayal define me, even if it hurts like hell. Because at the end of the day, I've learned something brutal. I've learned that sometimes the people you love the most are the ones capable of the worst betrayal, and you have to be strong enough to walk away before it destroys you. The aftermath of that night was a blur. I stayed in my apartment, staring at the walls, trying to process everything. It's funny how life hits you with a double punch: first the betrayal, and then the crushing loneliness that follows. I kept asking myself how I didn't see it coming. How could I be so blind? Rachel, my future wife, the girl I'd promised to spend my life with, was out there screwing her boss, while I was planning this perfect wedding that she was probably already planning to ruin. I started noticing small things, things I ignored before, like her avoiding my calls, her quick explanations whenever I'd ask about her day. I knew she was lying, but I didn't want to believe it. I wanted to think she'd come clean, admit she was wrong, and that we could somehow fix this mess. But deep down, I knew that was wishful thinking. She was a master at spinning stories, and I was just too caught up in the betrayal to see her true colors. One night, I found myself scrolling through her social media. I wasn't proud of it, but I needed answers. And there it was, a post she made about how some people just aren't worthy of your time. I knew she was talking about me, her fiancé, the guy who had trusted her with everything. It hit me like a ton of bricks. She'd been planning her escape, her new life with Mark, the whole time. While I was obsessing over wedding details, she was secretly with her boss, sharing secrets and sex. I felt a surge of anger, but also a deep sense of sadness. How did I let this happen? How did I miss the signs? I'd always believed in honesty, trust, loyalty. And now I was left with nothing but lies. I felt like a fool, a pawn in her game. For days, I didn't want to see anyone, didn't want to talk, just shut myself off from the world. My friends tried to reach out, but I wasn't ready to face anyone. I was drowning in a cocktail of betrayal and heartbreak. Eventually, I forced myself to think about what I needed to do. I knew I couldn't keep living in that toxic cycle of false hope and anger. I had to make a choice: either stay stuck in pain or move on. I started by clearing out her stuff, deleting her pictures, her messages, everything that reminded me of her. It was painful, but I needed to reclaim my space, my mind. I had to rebuild who I was piece by piece. In that process, I realized something: trust is fragile. Once broken, it's almost impossible to get back. Rachel had shattered mine with her lies and betrayal. I don't think I'll ever look at her the same way again, and honestly, I don't want to. I've learned that some people are just not worth the pain they cause. And if I'm honest, I'm not sure I'll ever fully recover from this, not in the way I thought I would. But I'm trying. I'm trying to find strength, to forgive myself for trusting her so blindly, and to understand that I deserve better than someone who would betray me so callously. It's a long road ahead. I don't have all the answers, but I know one thing: my worth isn't defined by her lies or her betrayal. And someday, maybe I'll be able to trust. Again, maybe. As the weeks dragged on, I found myself oscillating between anger, sadness, and a strange sense of relief. The anger was the easiest to handle. I told myself I'd finally seen her for who she really was, that she wasn't the girl I thought I married. She was just a manipulative, bitchy woman who used me and then threw me away like yesterday's trash. That realization kind of gave me a strange clarity. I didn't want her back, not after she lied so effortlessly, not after she played with my trust like it was nothing. But underneath all that was the sadness, the crushing feeling that I'd lost someone I loved, someone I'd seen as my future, my partner. That heartbreak was harder to shake. I kept thinking about all the plans we made, the promises she broke, the dreams I had built around her. I felt like I'd been duped, used, and discarded. It hurt worse than I expected. This feeling of betrayal runs deep, and it leaves scars. One day, I decided I had to get out of this emotional hole. I started talking to my friends more, trying to reconnect with the world outside my pain. It was Easy. Every time I saw a happy couple, I'd feel bitter. Every time I heard someone talk about trust, I'd get reminded of what I'd lost. But I also realized I couldn't let her win. I refused to let her betrayal turn me into someone bitter, someone who'd never trust again. I knew I had to rebuild slowly, carefully, and learn how to trust again. Maybe not her, but someone someday. I took some time for myself. I went to therapy, read books about heartbreak and betrayal, and started focusing on my career and hobbies. I needed to remind myself that life goes on, even after something as devastating as this. I also made it clear to myself I'd never settle for less. I wanted someone honest, loyal, someone who wouldn't lie, cheat, or manipulate. I wasn't going to let her ruin my ability to love again. And here's the thing I've come to understand: trust is like a fragile glass. Once shattered, it takes patience, effort, and time to piece it back together. Maybe it's impossible to completely forget what happened, but I can learn to live with it. I can learn to be cautious, to protect my heart without shutting myself off entirely. I know I'll never forget what she did, but I also know I'll be okay. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but eventually. So I'm here sharing this because I want anyone out there who's been betrayed to know you're not alone. It hurts like hell, but you'll survive. You'll learn to trust again, maybe differently, maybe smarter. The pain will fade, but the lessons will stay with you. Don't let anyone strip your self-worth or make you feel like you're less. Take your time, heal. And remember, you deserve honesty, loyalty, and someone who truly cares. Not a liar, not a cheat, and definitely not someone like her. Looking back now, I realize that what happened was one of the hardest things I've ever gone through, but also one of the most eye-opening. It's like life handed me a brutal lesson in trust and betrayal, one I hope I never have to learn again. I've come to accept that some people, no matter how much you want to believe in them, will let you down when you least expect it. Rachel was that person for me. She showed her true colors early on, and I just chose not to see them until it was too late. What's left now is a sense of cautious optimism. I know I'll never forget what happened, but I refuse to let it define me. I've gone through the stages: denial, anger, sadness, and I've come out the other side with a clearer understanding of what I want and what I don't. I've learned that trust has to be earned, that honesty is everything, and that love isn't about just words or promises, it's about actions. And if someone shows they're willing to lie and cheat, then they don't deserve a second chance. I've started to rebuild my life piece by piece. I focus on myself, my health, my passions, my goals. I've realized that I don't need someone who manipulates and betrays me to be happy. I deserve someone who is genuine, someone who values loyalty and honesty as much as I do. That doesn't mean I'm rushing into anything new, far from it. For now, I'm just taking it day by day, learning to trust again, but smarter this time. This experience has changed me, no doubt, but it's made me stronger, more aware. I know that love and trust are precious, and I won't give them away lightly anymore. I'll be cautious, yes, but also open to the possibility of real happiness with someone who truly deserves it. Because at the end of the day, life goes on, even after heartbreak, even after betrayal. And what I've learned is that the only person who can truly decide my worth is me. To anyone out there going through something similar, know this: you're not alone. It's okay to feel shattered, to cry, to be angry, but don't let that pain consume you. Use it to grow, to become wiser, to find someone who will treat you right and cherish you, because you deserve that. And don't forget, trust might be fragile, but your strength is. Keep pushing forward, and someday you'll look back and see how far you've come.